Hi, folks. I just finished an amazing interview with the one and only Michele Shuster, who was joining me all the way from Columbus, Ohio. Look, here at the Hitstreak, we take so much pride in giving you guys a top-notch quality product in the production quality, the audio and visual quality, all the way around. And we were struggling with some technical issues due to internet. It's 2022, almost 2023, and we're still having internet issues. Like, come on. But that being said, we're having some technical issues in there, but the information is absolute gold. It's so good that I want to air the episode. I'm going to air the episode. You're about to watch it. And I wanted to encourage you that if there's any breakups or anything like that, don't let the quality of the audio on some bits and pieces, very small bits and pieces, affect you not being able to get the information that you come back to this show for over and over, week after week, right? So it's an amazing show. Thanks again to Michele Shuster for joining me from Columbus, Ohio. Guys, enjoy the show. You will be blessed.
The real success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the Hitstreak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and I've got an extra special guest in the Hit Lab with me today, joining me all the way from Columbus, Ohio. I've got a 30-year veteran of the business world, a true champion of life and business, the one and only Michele Shuster in the building. Michele, how are we doing today?
I'm doing so great, Nick. Thanks so much for having me on your show. Really an honor to be here.
Well, man, I'm so excited. I'm so grateful to the great Dane Lomax for connecting us and helping us put all this together and make this happen.
What a character, right? It's amazing how all the circles intertwine.
It's amazing. I've learned so much from that young man as to how you treat people and more importantly, how you connect dots to make great things happen. It's amazing.
Have you ever met anybody with more connections than him? Truly.
No.
I am always astonished. When you have a need, he can figure it out.
That's right. Marianne and I, my wife, we say he has one of those special brains. It moves so fast that hardly anybody can keep up.
Well, that's a good way to describe it. I like that. We'll keep it at that.
Absolutely. And his heart is as big as anybody's, right?
Yeah. My husband and I have had the pleasure of spending some time with him in Colorado, and just really, just tremendous guy. Huge fan.
Well, Michele, like your career is, I'm so fascinated with it, and I've purposely, I did my homework like I always do, and we spoke a little bit before we started shooting, but I wanted to learn a lot of this real time with our audience, right? So I do know that out of your almost 30-year career, you've spent a lot of time in the Ohio Attorney General's office. You've been a lawyer. Goodness gracious, what else? What else would you say? How would you categorize? How would you break up your career?
Yeah, I think I'm like a lot of your guests. I consider myself an entrepreneur. I started my first business probably when I was about 8 years old. Little wagon with vegetables that had been grown on my uncle's farm, selling them to the neighbors, and. From there, it was things like carnivals in the backyard that we sold tickets to all of the kids in the neighborhood. We probably conducted a few illegal raffles. The statute of limitations is run on those, though, so I think we're okay. To when I was in law school, I started a research company with my fellow law students that ended up employing about 80% of the school's students, where we sold research to law firms across the United States. And sold that company after I graduated, and then criminal law is where I went after that. And my first trial was an aggravated murder. My second was a serial rapist, and I decided very quickly that was not the right area of the law for me.
How come?
And I have 3 sons, and I became pregnant with my first son, and I really feel strongly, and it carries over to today. I feel so strongly about people being entitled to a good defense. Because if we have prosecutors that go too far and they're not following the laws and the rules about, evidence and how they're required to treat defendants and defense attorneys, then you find people that are innocent that get convicted. And I think it is much better to have 100 guilty people running free than having one innocent person in jail. So it's still something that's near and dear to my heart. And probably when I'm retired, I might do something with Project Innocence or something like that. But it's a tough world once you have kids. And I have a lot of respect for those kind of criminal defense attorneys.
It's amazing. In a past life, my wife and I had a pretty solid career in the hospitality industry as restaurant and nightclub owners and operators. And it was in that the habitat in which you have to work in on a daily basis is I wasn't mature enough or man enough, I guess, strong enough to be able to be disciplined as a good businessman and not carry all the things. It's just hard when all your revenue is done at night. It's mostly alcohol, and it's a great time, and you make a lot of great relationships. But again, like if you're consistently living that life, it was tough, and it was kids that made us need the change. It's amazing. I say it all the time that outside of Jesus Christ, God's greatest gift to us is a child. Because of all that we've learned from him, it's unreal, right?
Yeah, I couldn't say it better. I have been so blessed to have 3 sons that challenge me every day. They make me proud most days. Some days they make me cringe a little, but we're on this journey together, and I can't imagine not having had them. My oldest son is 27 years old now, and I've got a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, and yes, I know I was very young when I started having children.
Yeah.
But I'm truly blessed to have them. They've all been college athletes. They play lacrosse, and I played soccer all my life. And so we've been able to share that journey of being athletes and, learning how to practice hard, how to work with coaches, how to work with players, and then perform when you have to. And there aren't any second tries. Game time only comes once. And I just think those are lessons you learn in life as a child that carry through to adulthood. And, I wouldn't change anything about that aspect of mine or my kids' lives.
That's fantastic. And you're right. You, as a man, you do not want to disappoint mama. You can disappoint a lot of people, but you better not disappoint mama. Well, let me ask you this. How, so my wife works. She's very involved in our day-to-day. She's my business partner. She owns 50% of pretty much everything that we do together. We're 42 years old, so a lot of her girlfriends that have kids, they may not work as much or as intense about it, or even driven about it. They're focused more at home. Like 3 boys, started young. You had every excuse to just to ride it out at home. First of all, how did you do that? Because this is a big deal. Like we used to say this when we were recruiting new insurance agents, that the one person that never fails is a single mom.
So true. So true. And I was a single mom for a few years there. And so I can definitely relate to that. Have nothing but respect for single parents that are raising children. That's probably the toughest thing to do, not having that partner. I'm so blessed to have a fabulous husband now who's on that journey with me. But, it wasn't by accident. It was by design. My kids came first. My work came second. And when I said that the reason I left criminal defense was because I had my first son and I just saw things through a different lens. And so after that, I went to work for a big law firm, and I was doing civil rights defense, which absolutely loved. I was working for corporate America and really focused on, defending corporations, but also making things better for employees, because, when we were working on civil rights defense, we were also working on their compliance programs. So, I always saw that as being in the best position to really make a difference for people, even though it was on the defense side. I realized, though, when my son was 2 years old and I was working, 60 to 80 hour weeks, which is insane, at a big law firm, that was not a way of life that was going to be conducive to me being a good mother and my kids having a good childhood. And so I went to work for the Ohio Attorney General's office. And, I have my kids to thank for that, because that's why I made that decision. And it was one of the best moves I could have possibly made.
Okay.
Speaking about great women, I had the privilege of working with Betty Montgomery, who was the first woman Attorney General in Ohio. And she just surrounded herself with great people. And she taught me so much. And, speeding up a little bit here, just to talk a little bit about her, we were blessed that when we started the law firm 15 years ago, she came and worked with us, which, wow. I mean, that is probably one of the highest honors of my life.
Yeah.
She's still with us. She's in a meeting at the office right now with doctors from around the United States talking about medical marijuana and some of the legal restrictions around that. And, it's just, it's truly wonderful. But working in the AG's office gave me the ability to have a little bit more of a 9-to-5 structure. Obviously, it extended sometimes further than that, but allowed me to get to my kids' games, allowed me to get to those kindergarten graduations. And luckily, I had a mother that lived close. And when I couldn't go, she filled in for me. And so, it was the whole family filling in and helping with raising the kids. But I talk to my kids about it, because I'll tell you, I think all working mothers can relate to this. We have a little bit of guilt because we feel like we're not giving everything to our kids. And I just think as a woman, that's an instinct that you want to take care and nurture your kids. I'm sure your wife is like that too. And so I've had conversations. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Parents in general. You're right. I'll be fair there. But there's just something about giving birth to a child that builds that special bond. But I've had that conversation with my kids. Like, did you miss me when you were young? Because I wasn't always there. I couldn't always make the Halloween party. And first they say, no, I think you were at all the Halloween parties, Mom, which is not true. But they say that, the way that they were raised was a little bit different than most. And that as a result, they didn't have somebody who was there all the time. So they had to figure it out themselves sometimes. And they're grateful for that. They're very grateful for that.
Absolutely. What's the old saying? If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him to fish, you feed him forever, right? So I've learned that as a parent, when I can still remember the spot we were at. I could take you there today, where my son, when he first started walking, fell and skinned his knee the first time on my watch. And it just, it broke my heart. I can remember the first time he fell off his bicycle, and there was blood. I can remember all the first of those things that just totally break your heart. And at first, your instinct is to say, "Man, it's my fault that happened to him." I should have kept him from that happening. But then over time, I've realized that my job was just to make sure that he got up and did it again, and got back on the horse, or got back on the bike, got back up to walk, to learn. Didn't let those things defeat him. Right? Yeah. That was, as a parent, that was my main responsibility.
Yeah, it's a tough instinct to overcome too, right? To just not grab them and then hold their bike for them so they don't fall again. But to give them the courage to go back and try it again. And you know what? They might get hurt, but it's okay. When they get hurt, they get back up again. Such an important life lesson, especially for entrepreneurs. That's
right. And your journey. So your family, your circumstances, I wouldn't say they defined you, but you used them to your advantage. Because looking back, if you didn't have the kids, if you didn't have the separation from your former husband, what would your career path have looked like? It would have been different, right? We can agree on that. You probably wouldn't have gone to work for the AG because you would have probably stuck it out, and because that's what winners do. Once they start something, they finish most of the time, right? And but when family gets involved, it's different. And it's also fair to say that, like, we say this a lot. I see this a lot with entrepreneurs when they want to start. It's hard enough to believe in yourself when there's doubt, and if you don't have support from the people that you put trust in and care about, like your family, you're almost doomed to fail, because now you're competing. You're fighting against your own belief plus other people's belief that have influence on your belief. How important was you that your mom bought into all this and was there for you to help you raise the kids, so that you could build this career?
I so lucky and blessed. I had the most wonderful parents that a girl could have had. My father was 14 years older than my mother, and he was born in 1926. So he was a product of the Depression. And so a lot of the lessons that I learned, they were Depression era lessons. And you learn not to get too high with the highs and not too low with the lows. And my father would tell me that all the time. And I believe that and I live that, because, you know what, every day there's something bad that happens that could really wreck your whole day if you let it. And, you know, there's something good that happens that could keep your feet so high off the ground that you miss the other things that are going on. So that even keel is probably what I appreciate the most, having learned from my father. You know, my mother, she was a stay-at-home mother until I went to school, and then I told her she should probably become a bus driver, because if she became a school bus driver, she'd only work when we were in school, and then she'd be home in the afternoons, and she'd be home in the summers, you know, so she could still take care of us, you know, cook for us and take us to the pool and stuff. And so she did that, and she ended up working as a school bus driver for 25 years.
Wow.
And she appreciates that advice now, because she's got a wonderful, you know, school pension that she retired on. And I think we as entrepreneurs have a way of really working hard to influence the environment around us. And those of us that are good in principle do that, not just for ourselves, but for all those other people that are around us. And I think that's where the real joy comes from. You know, after leaving the AG's office in 2007, we decided that, you know, we wanted to start our own law firm. And so at the same time, the opposite political party of the one we were working with swept the Ohio state offices. And so 2 other former consumer protection chiefs, which is the role that I had in the AG's office, lost their jobs that day. And I had just so happened to schedule lunch with one of those folks that day. And, you know, we looked at each other and I said, you know what, I think this is a good time for all of us to take the leap. And this is the time for us to start our own law firm. And so we did it. And we got very lucky when we first started, because it was the recession that was also starting at the same time, because, you know, don't all entrepreneurs start a business when the recession starts.
That's right.
We got a conflict from a large law firm for the Dish Network case. It was a 50-state, multi-state case that all of the AGs initiated against Dish Network for their marketing and advertising. And so we had to meet with all 50 states AGs, and we negotiated a fantastic settlement for them that the AGs were happy with, Dish Network was happy with. And unfortunately, they didn't hire us for the FTC case that followed after that. They hired DC lawyers, and I think they ended up with the largest fine that the FTC had levied at the time. So don't underestimate the little guys.
Decisions are important, aren't they? You got to make the right.
They really are.
Well,
they really are.
Well, folks, once again, we are chatting with the one and only Michele Shuster, the partner of Mac Murray Shuster LLP. Folks, let me just read off a couple things about Michele before we get into our next topic here. So, it's fantastic. And by the way, her social, you can check her out on LinkedIn at Michele Shuster. It's Michele with one L. Let me throw that out there. Michele with one L, Michele Shuster on LinkedIn. As a founding partner of boutique consumer protection and privacy law, a law firm, Mac Murray Shuster, and former chief of Ohio Attorney General's Consumer Protection Section. That's a lot. That was a mouthful. Michele credits much of her success to this one simple practice. Opening herself up to new experiences and people has made her a better attorney and business leader. The opportunities and success that have followed from that. Michele is a trusted advisor to leading industry associations. No kidding. That's right. She currently serves as the General Counsel to the Professional Associations for Customer Engagement, better known as PACE, where she also oversees its self-regulatory organization and as Regulatory Counsel to Consumer Consent Council. That's a lot, girl. That's a lot. I need a break from reading that.
We got to make that sound a little sexier or something. I don't know. Right? Yeah.
It's fantastic, man. Like, first of all, just congratulations. Congratulations. What a journey. Raising 3 kids, 27, 23, 21 years old now. So I have a 13-year-old. All right. So we're right in the thick of it with him. And then we have a 1.5-year-old daughter. And so, like, you know, she doesn't know words yet.
Wow.
She knows She knows mom, dad, Bubba, and then she knows no, because like she threw some lasagna on the floor the other day, and I was like, no, and she gave me the meanest look and slapped me when I did it. And I told my wife, I'm like, well, that's the last time I'm saying that. You're up with her. I'll deal with the boy, you deal with her. But she doesn't understand words, so all she does is you get emotions when she's trying to communicate. It's a beautiful thing. You're out of the you're on your kids are out of the house now, right? And
one that's still at the house, and one that's coming back for a gap year after he graduates.
Awesome. So they're basically fending for themselves. Man, what a journey the last 27 years have been. Yes.
My oldest son is dyslexic, and there are a lot of dyslexic kids out there that aren't identified. And I think because he was our oldest son, we were late to identify that he had a learning disability. And those kids with dyslexia, they don't get diagnosed with dyslexia because it's not a technical medical term in the DM1 whatever book that has the list of diagnostic codes for illnesses. And so when a child has dyslexia, they're diagnosed with a non-specific learning disability. So how wonderful is that when you're trying to figure out what to do for your child, or if you're a child trying to figure out what's wrong with me, it's some non-specific learning disability. And so he was diagnosed in 4th grade, started a journey that shaped me for the rest of my life. I get choked up talking about it, so I probably won't talk too much about it, but the kids that have these types of learning disabilities, they are such an inspiration if they can be connected with the right people and given the right chances and given the right tools. And so, when you're dyslexic, one of the most difficult things for you is learning different languages. And he wanted to play college lacrosse. That was his only goal in life, to play college lacrosse. And he hoped maybe he could go to medical school after that. This kid that's got dyslexia that they're telling he'll never be able to go to college, right? That's what he said is a goal, which is why you never doubt the spirit of a human being that really wants something. And so lots of years of working together, he decided that he wanted to go to an all-boy college prep school because he didn't think he could get into college unless he could prove that he could get through that program. And he also wanted to play college lacrosse. So we had to find one with a good lacrosse team, and he did it. And, I remember sitting down in a meeting at the beginning because we had come out of public schools, and I was telling the teachers that they would have an IAP for him that was specialized learning instruction, talking about what you let your kids do, right? And we had a psychiatrist there that was talking about all these accommodations that would help him get through school. And on the other side of the table, you'd never seen such blank stares in your whole entire life, just like, we've been this institution for 100 years and we're not changing anything for your son. And my son looked at me and he said, "Mom, I can take it from here."
Wow.
I know, right? And he looked across the table and he said, "You know what? I can do this. I don't need any accommodations, but, I just want you to know that I'm going to give it my all." And they looked at him and they said, "We have lots of people here that'll help you if you ask for it. And if you stay on top of things and know what you need help in." And just such an amazing lesson. He graduated from that high school. He went to Rochester Institute of Technology, played lacrosse there, made it to the national championship his senior year. He just graduated from medical school, and he's in an orthopedic surgery residency now. And, anybody out there who thinks they can't do it, he is just living proof that if you want something bad enough, no matter the obstacles that are thrown in front of you, you can do it. And he reminds me of that every day.
Man, what an amazing story. That is the greatest thing you mentioned right there that makes this country so great is if you want something bad enough and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get it, you can have it. And so it's interesting. It's interesting you said that. So my son Ethan, who's 13, when he was a very late bloomer. Like he didn't speak. Gosh, my wife could tell you exactly how long it was, but like people his age, other kids his age had been talking for a long time before he did. And he's a guy that he learned, his brain works a lot like mine. We learn a lot of things backwards. And when he was very young, he was diagnosed autistic. And of course, like as a parent, when you hear those words, you don't even know what to do with that. And I'm like, you start blaming yourself. What are we doing? And then he went into a program here at Vanderbilt. He's been in school since he was 2 years old. Every year he's been in a school because they have a great little program here where they actually a year or two later they reversed the diagnosis. They said he's not autistic. He just learns different. But like I remember when we were thinking through those I remember when we were thinking through that situation with my wife. I just remember telling her, like when it comes time to pay a utility bill, they're not going to ask, if he's got a learning disability. They're just going to tell him the money's due. It doesn't matter. So like that can't define him. He has to figure out his path, and he has to define himself on that. And we cannot let this be a crutch that he's going to lean on to be for mediocrity for the rest of his life. It just can't happen.
So true. We have this motto in the family, and we didn't realize that it was the Apollo 13 motto until after it had become our family motto. But the family motto is that failure is not an option. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to fail. We fail all the time, but it means it's not going to be the end. That's not where we stop. We don't stop at failure. So, there were lots of tests that my oldest son failed or, had to stay up all night studying for after having stayed up on everything. But he was never going to let a bad test result ever define him. It was going to be the next one that was going to matter, because if he could get beyond that one, then, he still had a few more tests that quarter that he could get through and do well enough to get what he needed. And, with sports, it's been the same way. With jobs, it's the same way. Yeah. Failure can never define you. Doesn't mean you're not going to fail, but, failure is not an option.
That's right. And that young man has a big responsibility to make sure that story, that's an amazing success story, and it needs to be told. And there's nobody better to tell it than him, because then other people will tell it too. What a great inspiration, right? So that's, I can...
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I can see a book. I can see a lot of stuff about that.
We'll have him on your show.
I would love to.
He hates public speaking, but he would be a great one to interview, and he's probably one of the most way better interview than me. I'll tell you, he's probably one of the most modest people you would ever meet in your whole entire life. Doesn't understand really truly what he's accomplished from the outside, how people perceive him, because for him it was just a matter of keeping his head down and continuing to do it because he had a goal. And the day that he matched and got into his orthopedic surgery residency, it was something that words cannot describe.
Absolutely.
Anyway, here I am, this big bad corporate attorney, and I'm talking and crying at the same time. So.
Well,
yeah, those are the things. That's what makes us people, and why we care so much about the people that we work with, right?
That's right.
I'm sure you're like that too, that when I'm working with clients, the most important thing that's going on is to make sure that I get their issue taken care of. And because of things like our sons, we care so deeply because we know what it's like to struggle, and we're going to help them. So
the reason you're a big attorney is because you have a big heart. That is, I'm 100% about that. I'm 100% on that. Well, let me ask you this. What is it like to run a state agency?
Hoi. So so there were about 150 employees that were in that section of the AG's office. My first husband was in the military, and I am so blessed that I was able to see how the U.S. military functions, because it was really my guidepost for how we would run the AG's office. And I don't mean in that militistic way that everything has to be done in a specific way, but that, there's a chain of command. And I had a whole level of supervisors that were managing a whole nother level of employees, and some of them had a third level underneath them. And this as an entrepreneur, you just want to hop in and you want to institute your ideas, and someone's going to come to you and complain about something and you want to change it immediately. And so it was a really great lesson about learning leadership and how you set a strategy for, generally it was the next year. You get buy-in from your supervisors, and then you agree on how that's going to be implemented, and then you let them do their jobs. And it was such a fantastic lesson. The tough things in the office were that, the consumer protection section, and I was assistant chief of crime victim services before that, are really high profile sections. So we had to do a lot of press interviews, and some of those were on bad topics that, maybe the office had done something not in the exact right way, or it was a political hatchet job that a reporter wanted to do for our elected or against our elected official. And so, I think I learned from that really just the value of being able to control the narrative, and the value of letting the people that you work with and that you're responsible for do the things that they do. And if you've hired the right people, they're going to do a great job. And that's carried through to our current law firm. I love our staff. We have an amazing office of attorneys and paralegals and our legal assistants, our marketing director who was here helping me get set up, and our IT folks. And, I have, the joke is I have 20 ideas every day, and I probably do. And, they have learned to help me decide which of those 20 ideas are good ones and which of those 20 we might just let go for that day and maybe think about tomorrow.
There you go.
So, a lot of those lessons I learned in the AG's office have carried over. Plus, the huge benefit of having worked in government, and especially as a regulator, is that you know what the other side looks like now, because what we've done now for the last 15 years is we defend those companies that we used to prosecute.
I got you.
And so, because we know what those offices look like, because we know what those staff attorneys think, and because we know what's going to draw the attention of the regulator, we know how to protect our clients in a proactive way on the compliance front, which is where I focus primarily on, is compliance. And then we have an amazing litigation group. If folks didn't come to us for compliance, they'll usually come to us for litigation.
Gotcha.
And our litigation group, they understand the mind of the regulator. And the worst mistake you can make is go in and try to bully them or belittle them, because they'll make it their job to make you regret that, because they don't bill by the hour. They have one client and a handful of big cases, and they'll make you their new job.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they sure will.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned
very lucky to have worked with Betty.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned marketing. You've mentioned the word compliance, and like marketing is we were having a talk. I was actually giving a keynote, and I remember we were talking about marketing, and I was just out there and I was looking at all the faces, and I don't know what, it dawned on me that I was like, I don't think we're all talking about the same thing. So I asked him, I picked out a few random people, and I said, what, define marketing? I got 6 different definitions. So literally we were talking about 6 different things with those 6 different people. And my wife was always telling me that words matter. And so we've learned to, when we're talking about things, we define the word that we're going to talk about, so we're all on the same page. So we're all, our foundation is we're at least starting from the same place. What does and you've mentioned the word compliance, which in the insurance space, that was a word I learned very quickly when it came to marketing. Big organizations have to market different than entertainment companies and hospitality companies, right? Help me out with compliance and marketing in a compliant fashion, in a compliant way for your business. Because an entrepreneur, if they understand this, honestly, once I figured this out, it made me better in all the other things where there wasn't a compliance, a lot of compliance related things, right? Yeah. I'm sure it has. For me, marketing is just promoting a product, service, person, company. It's the promotion of something. And there are, dozens of different mediums that you can use to do that type of promotion. And so when I'm talking about marketing compliance, I'm talking about the message, and I'm also talking about the mediums that are being used, because the message is regulated in all 50 states and on the federal level. And at the very most basic level, you can't market or promote in any way that is unfair or deceptive. And we could go through what constitutes unfair and deceptive. We could talk about it for days, weeks, because there are a lot of things that factor into that. But then beyond that, once you get beyond the general marketing
marketing requirements on a state and federal level. Then you have specific marketing requirements, compliance requirements, industry-specific marketing requirements. And then beyond that, you've got to look at the medium that's being used. The way that I can market on through an email is very different than how I can market through a phone, and there are different requirements. And
that's right.
So it's really about understanding all of those different requirements, and you really have to have the right attorney to do it, because if you're working with a company that advertises in all 50 states, you have to understand all 50 states. You have to understand all 50 states regulators. And if you don't, then it's just a prescription for disaster, because it's not intuitive, right? And I'm sure with any issues you might have had or that other entrepreneurs have when they're starting up, you think, I'm a good guy, I'm doing right by my customers, and I want to do good in business. And so that should be enough, right?
It should.
Unfortunately, the laws don't work that way, and things that aren't intuitive can sometimes very well-meaning people in trouble. And so that's why we're there when the litigation side. But what I really enjoy, and what my tagline is that peace of mind is within reach. And that's what I want to offer to my clients. I want to give them peace of mind, so that when they go to sleep at night, they know that we've thought about all of those potential ways that they can get in trouble. We've covered it. We've given them a defendable position. And if, God forbid, they do get a knock on the door with a summons from a regulator or a litigant, we're already on top of it. We got a response for that, and it's going to end very quickly. So I love my job. Love working with folks like you. I love working with folks like Dane, and showing them how they can have peace of mind around these issues too.
Well, since we brought up the great Dane, we have so many names for Dane. It's funny. I've met 4 Danes in my lifetime. One was a musician in my father's band when I was a kid. The other one is a child on my son's baseball team that I coach, and which is where most of the nicknames came from. The other Dane is from a work colleague, and then of course the great Dane Lomax. So we've called him the Fallen Dangel. We've done the Danger Zone, and gosh, how many? There's so many other ones. I'm drawing a blank right now, but we're gonna stay with the great Dane Lomax for today. And you guys are working on a new training product that's going to help business provide their frontline agents and employees with the tools they need to avoid the unknown that we were just basically talking about from a compliance and marketing perspective, right? So talk to me about that.
Yeah. When you own these and run these big corporations, you really have to rely on all of your consumer-facing employees to know how to handle situations, especially and potentially in a very heated situation with a customer. Because I can tell you from experience that most of the consumer complaints are generated not because the consumer knew that this person violated the law, but because they felt like they just weren't handled in a way that was right and in a way that they deserved. So, when we're training, especially those frontline individuals, which is the product that Dane is talking about, we are telling them, and we're teaching them, I should say, we're not telling them, we're teaching them how they can handle those situations and what the requirements are. Because I want them to have peace of mind as well, that when they have those customers that are either setting them up for a lawsuit, because that happens very frequently in today's day and age, because the laws are set up to allow for individuals to recover and also to file class actions. So the individuals are motivated, and the class action attorneys, very motivated. The class action attorneys that we're working with are usually having to delay our phone calls because they're meeting with their contractor who's building their new mansion. So, so as we're doing these training programs, we're really focused on those frontline individuals and giving them the skills and also the reason why those skills are so important. And then, giving the company peace of mind that they have what's called a safe harbor, which is a legal principle that if you put compliance policies and procedures in place and you train your employees on those policies and procedures, then you can have a litigation safe harbor, which prevents those damages from being able to be collected. So that's what we're really focusing on here, that leg of training for employees, providing them with a certification that they've been through the training, and just giving them the tools that they need to perform. And it's not easy. It's not for everybody, and we want to make it easier for them. That's right.
I was very blessed in the insurance space to represent a company that the opportunity changed my wife and I's life, and it was the team at U.S. Health was just amazing in the fact that they let us be us, and they could have easily just said, you can't do that, no discussion, you can't do that, and that would have very drastically changed the course of our trajectory, and instead they said, you guys are the missing magic piece, and their job was to make sure that we just stayed within the lines. You know what I mean? That we didn't veer off the road. And again, it was a lot of work on their end because they were monitoring what was going on, and then giving feedback back to me, which then that resulted in a lot of changes to make it right. But at the end of the day, the journey came to a place where we figured out, all right, this is what works. The company was in a better spot because they could find more people that brought what I could bring, and at the same time, people like me had an opportunity with a great company like U.S. Health. So it was I'm so grateful for the team at home office for having the patience and the forethought to say, man, maybe they have something here. And but why they did it? It was because the people that, our customers, the people that you need to help, they might be on Facebook, they might be on Instagram, and you need to be there where they're at to meet them to solve, because at the end of the day, it's about them. It's about them. They're the hero of the story. So let's make sure that we can create a compliant and legal path to get to them and provide them with the answers that they need, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very familiar with U.S. Health, and I think that that's the great thing that they do for their independent agents, and that's just really a great example. And we've talked a little bit about how it's so important as an attorney to not tell people that they can't do something, but how they can do it, and that's an excellent example of how to do that.
That's right. Well, so almost 30 years into your career, you just launched a brand new training product. I mean, there's no signs of you stopping or slowing down anytime soon, right? So, I don't know, what's the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years, look like for you?
So, what I'm working on right now is through the trade association that you mentioned, PACE. We developed 15 years ago a self-regulatory organization for teleservices, and we recently merged with the Consumer Consent Council. And now we're the professional associations for customer engagement, and we're with other trade associations to join this group as well. But, in bringing in the Consumer Consent Council folks and our current self-regulatory standards to include marketing. And so we've just finished drafting SRO out. So I'm really looking forward to getting those self-regulatory standards out into the industry. Really looking forward to getting this SRO up and running and get as many companies accredited as we can through it. I think it'll make marketing much better. I think it'll keep the regulators a lot less busy. That's our ultimate goal. We want to take care of those things. We don't need the regulators to be doing that. So industry is a strong motivator when everybody's doing it that way. And so that's my next big project, just continue working with the law firm and bringing up new attorneys and teaching them to practice law in the way that we think is best for our clients and best for them and best for their families. So that's probably the next years of my life.
Michele, I knew that you were going to bring the noise today, and you did. I mean, honestly, I could spend all afternoon asking questions and learning. Is there anything else that you'd want to do a little chit-chatting about here on the podcast today before we bring this sucker to a close?
We pretty much covered it all. I guess a story about when we started the law firm 15 years ago.
Okay.
One of my current partners, Helen Mac Murray, she was going through a divorce at the time. And so it was really important as we started the law firm in a recession that she'd be able to support her family. And we had just met with our other two founding partners, and we had met at Panera. The only thing we agreed on that day was the colors for the law firm logo, the important stuff.
Yeah.
And Helen and I walk outside to the Panera parking lot, and she looks at me and she says, "Michele, I know we can do this. I know that we'll be successful. I believe in the idea, but unfortunately, it's all about the money for me because I have to support my kids. And I need that as I'm going through this divorce." And I looked down, and I keep this in my office. And in between the two of us was this, on a leather cord out of a bubblegum machine,
Wow.
a dollar sign. I picked it up and I said, if that isn't a sign from God, I don't know what is. And so we never focused on the money. We focused on being a good law firm, creating a place where people enjoyed coming to work, that gave them, a quality of life, as well as teaching them to be excellent attorneys. And it has brought me immense happiness that I could have never planned on. And we've put together a law firm that's well respected in the United States with corporations and regulators, and just feel lucky and blessed and looking forward to continuing to do it. And I appreciate you having me here today to let me tell my story. I don't think I've ever told my story this way. You're a good interviewer, Nick.
Well, I'm going to have you back for sure, no doubt. And back to, the way you guys started your law firm, you did it the right way, because I learned real quick, income is the outcome, but not the objective, right? And
it's not the objective. That's right.
That's right. Well, Michele, I'm so grateful to have the time with you today. I'm so grateful for all of our amazing guests. It's crazy how many people tune into this thing. We're in all 50 states, like 14 countries, if I'm not mistaken, right now that we have active engagement. And I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's all because of amazing people like you that are telling these. It's such a great inspiration and such great information. It's such a great tool that people like you are able to provide knowledge for. And I'm just so again, I'm so grateful for the time. Man, she's a badass. How fun is this? Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Thank you for the platform, Nick. It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, Michele, thanks so much for hanging with me today. Michele Shuster, the partner of Mac Murray and Shuster LLP. You can check her out on LinkedIn at Michele Shuster. Michelle's with one L, right? Folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.